it really is one of the most terrifying stories by him that I can think of because it's all real, right? There's no supernatural element to this at all. It's
It's
just
people.
human monsters, and it's
Yeah.
monsters upon monsters. Welcome to Horror Movie Survival Guide, Disco Citizens, the podcast where gorehounds
And best friends, Terry Gamble,
and Julia Marchesi break down a different horror movie each week,
exploring a multitude of genres, subgenres,
and subgenres,
classic and cult,
international,
and underground flicks alike, determining which films are the goriest,
and offering up horror movie survival guide tips
to help you stay alive. Ooh, Julia, you have the book? Okay.
Hello, Disco Citizens. Welcome to Horror Movie Survival Guide. I am Julia.
And I'm Terry. Nice to see you all. Oh my gosh, Julia.
And this week we are continuing our
More
run.
King.
More King. What makes me so happy for his birthday month, we are doing more Stephen King. We have doing this week 1998's APT Pupil. Title of this episode is I Want to Know More. Tagline for this movie: if you don't believe in the existence of evil, you've got a lot to learn. So this is based on a story written by Stephen King, adapted by Brandon Boyce, and directed by Bryan Singer, who shall not be named. I do have...
Sorry.
We'll just skip on past that.
Yep.
So I do have some alternate universe casting for you. So this movie, so this comes from Different Seasons, which is a book that Stephen King wrote, which was a collection of short stories, novellas from the early 80s. So this is a pretty killer diller because we got Hope Springs Eternal, which is Rita Hayworth, and The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, wow.
Then you have Summer of Corruption, which is Apt Pupil. Then you have Fall from Innocence, which is The Body, which is Stand By Me.
Wow. Yeah.
And then A Winter's Tale is The Breathing Method, which has not been adapted, but is pretty fucking cool. So it's a killer diller selection. Yeah.
A lot of hits.
And he's going dark with these guys, which I really enjoy. But we do have some crossover in the story. Dusender does say that he got some work done by a lawyer named Andy Dufresne, which is from Shawshank. So
oh my God,
there are
incredible.
some crossovers in this one. So they have been tried to make this movie several times, and it
looked like it fell through a lot. Yeah.
There was a 1984 version that they were trying to do, where they were trying to get James Mason or Richard Burton to play Dusender, which would have been amazing.
Who both
which
died.
Didn't happen. Yes, they
Before
both were
they
like,
could make
yeah,
it.
we'll do it, and then died.
They died.
Then there was an attempt in 1987, and this one sounds amazing because this one they finished 3/4 of it, and then
they had like
money
40
ran
minutes.
out. Yeah, and so this was Ricky Schroeder playing Todd, and then also Nicole Williamson, who was, of course, and Alan Bridges directed it, which were they're like the big BBC kind of like heavy hitter guys.
Yeah.
So,
but I heard like universe Schroeder was like almost too old. They said, like, I think I read something where they were like, when they went to go reshoot, they were like, he's almost looking to like he was like on that line at that era, because he would have been better for him like if he'd done it probably like 5 to 10 years earlier, honestly. So
sure.
Yeah.
So for the alternate universe casting for this version, Anthony Hopkins was offered the part. Anthony Hopkins turned down this part, and it went to Ian McKellen. So I reread this story in preparation to record this, of course, because I'm a girl who does her research, and this short story gave me fucking nightmares. That never happens for me. Like, I've read so much and watched so much fucked up shit, like it never filters through to my dreams. And this was like, I woke up and like, okay, I felt real weird the next morning. I was like, this story
property is haunted. The amount of times that like people have died or things that didn't happen, or the times it wasn't supposed to be made, and then the person who actually made it is a cursed like object of it into himself. Like, you know what I mean though? Like, I think there's something about probably a combination of the subject matter, combination of how it's being used, is really tricky. There are some things that are like that out there, and it was supposed to be a big-ish hit because it was right after his Usual Suspects, had come out. They were like, this is his follow-up to Usual Suspects, and this is what you're gonna do, and they're like, oh, buddy.
It's the thing brutal. Is like it really is one of the most terrifying stories by him that I can think of because it's all real, right? There's no supernatural element to this at all. It's just
people.
Human monsters, and it's monsters upon monsters, right? And in the book, in the very first time when he meets Todd, he's like, "You're a monster," and he's like, how can you call me a monster?" And it's this thing of, I think Brad Renfro does a great job in this movie, and I don't want to downplay his whole role, but he does not capture how I think Todd Bowden is one of Stephen King's most terrifying characters. Like, he's so completely void of emotion, like, and, like, when
He's a psychopath.
he is, and when he first arrives, he got
Mhm.
everything figured out, right? And his only downfall is, like, he's a kid and he can't think of everything through, but it's the one of the most terrifying things, and they keep pushing this in the story, is, like, he's so beautiful and he has this smile and everybody loves him and he's this kind kid and he has these nice parents, and all of this stuff, like, is all sheltering this monster underneath, which is a terrifying idea, and I feel like that doesn't come through as much as I wish it did, that
I think it's
Dewsbury was
because
saying,
he was
well, he was saying,
technically
like,
too
it's your
young. No,
American,
because
he said,
he's
"It's your
supposed to be
American
16.
self-confidence."
Yeah, well, it's American Psycho, like, basically, like, right, like, this is around the same era,
Right.
right? The same time. Um, Brad Renfro was 14 doing this role, and this role's for a 16-year-old, and I think that's
Well,
part of
no,
it,
that's not true
right?
because it
Isn't it?
starts as a 13-year-old. It starts
Okay.
at 13 and it goes through several years. So he's in the right in the middle where he
He's
needs to
in the
be.
range, I guess, but I still feel like that could be why it's harder, though. Like, it's there's something about
You
that
feel like
age
if it do
range.
you feel like
Your
if this was
mental remember the
slightly,
guys freshman year versus sophomore year or junior year?
of course.
The change that happens over that summer when they come back for, like, junior year versus freshman.
I think about
They're different.
Jaden Martell in Mr. Harrigan's Phone, and I think
Oh,
about
yeah.
what if someone like him was Todd, right? Where he does look that kind of
He'd be
it
great.
younger. I was like, that's the
Yeah,
kind of, you need to start that young to be like, he's already crazy. He's already
yeah,
gone at 12, where
yeah.
he's already found the Holocaust and he's so obsessed with it. So we're gonna have Todd who's gonna arrive. He is upset. He finds out about the Holocaust and in
In his
school
1 week
in
of class in history, the section, the moment they go over it, we get 1 week and we got a whole creepy ass Holocaust pie chart at school. Oh god.
Yes, and so, in the story, he finds, like, old war magazines in his friend's garage, and that's how he finds out about it, and the thing about that is, and this is, I feel like this movie doesn't go nearly as hard as it needs to, because the magazines that he finds, a lot of it are those kind of magazines, and this is so crazy that these existed, but the kind of magazines where, like, they're, like, featuring the torture of women in kind of a sexual way, where you have, like, the Ilsa, she so the
Mhm.
SS, she wolf kind of stuff, and there's a lot in the story of, like, that kind of tortured brimming over into the sexual part of it that doesn't quite hit, and I'm kind of glad it doesn't, because it's such a crazy thing to think about, that existing, but he's a crazy character. So who is the monster in this story, Terry? Who is it?
Well, we already know it's humans. Hey,
Yay!
yay, constantly. And
Oh, I
so
didn't
he
I'm
Mhm.
can I just mention, I'm sorry, I just wanna mention, I don't know why it's set in 1984. I'm glad it's set in 1984, you know that, but this
It's
story
the
was written in the
timeline.
'70s.
Well, I think I thought it was just the timeline, they wanted to because it's, like, Orwellian. They were, like, thinking about, like,
Ah,
1984 and, like, what that
okay.
means in history, and then also just, like, the timeline of how many years it was from, like, the war and all that kinda stuff, how old this old man would be, like, there's a few, I
Right.
think, other reasons that the director and the team were using that were specific to that. Also because the movie was supposed to be originally made in 1984 and around the time when the story had,
Right.
like, originally come out. So there was like a whole I think that was like an homage to like when it was supposed to come out and then also Orwell, from what I read. I did a little research too, Julia, trying to keep up with my dear friend here.
See, here's but
You know,
thank you, and this is the
yeah.
thing about, we have a Todd Bowden, this is a character who loves his research, and yet we're like, "Ugh," about this research. We're like, "No, don't go so hard on this research. You're going too hard
Well,
in this,
go on
man."
the research, but the problem is like the angle of the glamorization, the stuff that he's fascinated by is not learning from these incidents. It's learning from these incidents so he can enact them and create some version of this himself, right? And so
Right.
he's enamored of the power, he's enamored of, how it looks. He likes, the outfits, if you will, the power that that has that these
I
guys have.
always think about fucking Christian Bale and Swing Kids, and he's like, "They gave
How
me a
hot he
motor
looks.
scooter," and I'm like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
know, it's so bad."
Yeah, and
Um,
he looks
so
great as a
but,
freaking little young Nazi. You're like, "Wow, you're
eh
kind of hot, and this is so upsetting."
yeah, the
It's
uniform,
upsetting.
yeah, it's a
Uniforms are hot.
whole side quest.
Why uniforms gotta
We're
be
not gonna
hot,
go
and we
to.
hate the military. It's like it's
I
awful.
know. It's just because
So,
it's good
anywho,
tailoring, I think.
it is the
But the thing
tailoring.
is that yeah, but Todd he's also, because he's such a young kid, he is like, "Well, I have this, like, detective phase, and I wanna be a detective, so I'm just gonna figure it out myself. I saw him on the bus, I connected him, now I'm gonna take the fingerprints, now I'm gonna do this stuff." And he feels like He's 1,000 years ahead of Doosander, which for the most of the story, he kind of is. And for that power to come from a child so young to be like, "You can't call the cops. I have you cornered. What are you gonna do about it? You do what I say, or I turn you in."
Yeah. So he's clocked this guy and he's going to blackmail him essentially. And so for information, he blackmails him for stories of the Holocaust and what it was like to be an SS soldier and what he did. And he gets into the nitty gritty of like how he worked the gas chambers and what that was like, what was the experience like. It gets really dark, really deeply. And it's when you're talking about the uniforms too, because like even Doosander's like, well, it's because the guys have their like their prowess and their penises, if you will, the marks and like the way that things
Mhm.
look, the epaulets and all that stuff, and your ranks look like these beautiful things that look like monuments on you, basically, right? It's like
Right.
monuments of yourself
Yeah.
that you get to wear around. And so there's something about wearing your achievement. I think that that's what's like enticing to him. And so he's like, I want to
Hmm.
see what that looks like. And so he's,
But and Todd,
mhm.
he does say, like, he wants to know the gushy stuff. That's what he says in the story. Like, "I wanna know the disgusting stuff that you don't even the exploitation magazines won't talk about." Like, that's
Oh
the
yeah.
road he's interested in.
Oh yeah, I mean, because there's the propaganda machine of what stuff was reported versus what it was really like and what really happened to people, right? The stuff that's been sanitized and cleaned up since then that people don't want to talk about. So he wants all of the gory details, and it's awful
Yeah. So but he has to meet the parents, so he goes over and meet and charms the
because the
parents.
kid's there every day. He's spending more and more time. This is why not just
Yeah.
you have to meet. You're spending time in this random old man's house we don't know. Like, please
Yeah.
bring him over for dinner. Like that's awkward. But he's like, I'm just reading to this old guy. They're like, yeah, sure, 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 okay.
But that is actually a through line in quite a few of Stephen King's stories because Mr.
Oh yeah,
Harrigan's
Mr.
Phone,
Harrigan's
as we
phone.
known, and then also in Heart of Atlantis, Bobby Garfield reads to Ted. So like that's a whole thing of like kids reading to young boys or is older men is kind of a thing. So we have him here. He's charming. His dad is played by Bruce Davidson, who has also done a lot of Stephen King stuff, including
Yep.
Kingdom Hospital, which was not very good, but he was good in it. And Aunt Dowd, who we love as his mother, charms him is fine. And then, he starts describing, and this is where it starts to bleed into Todd's real life, where he's gets this very long monologue about the showers from Doosander and then goes to school and is in the showers and then is like, wait, he is zoned out. Everybody is gone, but he's been seeing other people in like the other kind of showers that he's been talking
He's
about.
got
So,
visions of the gas chambers. Yeah, it's pretty awful in the midst of that. And yeah, this was one of those scenes too that I was like, "Oh, this is one of the ones that had like a bunch of controversy about it when the film came out too because a bunch of the kids that were originally in some of these scenes had sued about being in the scene and they had to reshoot these with adults instead of like,
mm,
for kids for this. So this is that was a whole nother whole pile of mess to deal with this, but it's really an effective, very scary scene too, because that's one of those things that would give you nightmares where you're like, am I awake or am I dreaming?
mhm.
Have I been listening to these stories too much? Like where they're invading my day life now.
Do you know, I just thought about who I want for this role, and I want Josh Miller from Near Dark and River's Edge to
Oh
play Todd Bowden. Like,
yeah.
that's how hard I need it to go, where I feel like you look at that kid and you're like, "There's something wrong with that kid," but the interesting thing is there's not supposed that's not who this person is, I guess. He's like you're supposed to look at him
He's
and be like, "Oh,
supposed to
he's
be like
beautiful."
Bateman, right? He's
Bateman.
supposed to be like Patrick Bateman. He's supposed to be an American Psycho, like where you're like, there's something about him that you're like, oh, I would still hang out with him. He's kind of cute.
Mhm.
And Renfro had that. Like that was like he was that boy for I think he was Tiger Beat cover boy. He has that look, has that
Were you
vibe.
ever a Renfro girl?
No,
No,
he was not
me
for
neither.
me. He
No,
was not for me.
I saw this movie when it came out. I remember going to
Hmm.
see it in the theater. So, but he had the hair. He's got the Dream Boy hair.
Yeah.
But we haven't mentioned Joshua Jackson, who is just casually his best friend in this movie and has a couple of scenes, and you're like, okay, he's on the brink too, right? Just doing
'Cause he
it.
was right about to be yeah, he was right before Dawson's Creek. It's, like, right before he's about to be super famous and stuff too,
Hmm.
but I think this was, like that was this era, right? All these, like, it boys. Um, And I remember working with John Ottman, who's the editor on this too, and he's a composer, and he worked on a musical I worked on as well too during this,
Oh,
like, this
cool.
era as well. So I was like, "Oh, yeah, I remember working with him too." So this is a whole milieu of time that, like, watching this was a little time capsule for that as well,
Yeah.
for me of just, this era of Hollywood. But,
So Doosander and
mhm.
Bowden have been basically cranking each other's chain up to the next level and encouraging the kind of monstrosity that they kind of secretly love. Todd is like, "Hey, I got your present. It's uniform. Fucking put it on. Do what I say." And it's you and this, Doosander does because there's not you can't. He is so trapped. But there is that kind of moment where Todd sees him go into the mode, the Nazi mode, right? Like he's
And
like
that's what
detached
he'd
and
been
he's in this
wanting to
thing. Yeah.
see, right? Like, he's like, that's the energy I wanted to see. I wanted to see what that looks like up close and personal. It's like he's like his play doll, right? Like, a little
Yeah.
bit of just like, I wanna see what it really looks like, and so he has that, but he also gets, more nitty-gritty stories. I know, Stephen King and sewers, talking about people in sewers. Again,
Mhm.
always a trope in a Stephen King story, he telling him about where there was the last place people would go to hide is a sewer, and I was just like, of course, as he's telling him these stories as well too. But he puts on the uniform, and he makes him march.
Yeah. But what I think is interesting that once he sees that actual spark in Doosander's eyes, he tells him to stop. Like it's too far now. It's too real now, and it's right here in the house. And it's really kind of freaks him out, which is really interesting. But now we're going to go into the problem of Todd's grades. So Todd's grades have been he is a straight A student. He is on the road for valedictorian. He is like no problem at school, but
He's a
he's
golden
been
boy.
spending liter every single day with him, and now it's starting to eat his
Hours on
brain
end.
away.
Yeah.
And so now he's in this trap where he if he knows his parents have slipped if his parents knows that they slipped as much as they slipped, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. So Dusander's like, okay, great. So it's interesting that they make it play in the movie as if this wasn't Todd's idea for him to do that, because I feel
Mhm.
like he looks surprised when he comes in, and actually he's not in that scene. The grandfather and French just have that scene together. But that's strange that it becomes a power move instead of a request
I like
or
that
to
they
command.
get a little cat and mouse, in this
Yeah.
moment. So it's like, because it is the whole movie is really a power. It's about power, right? That's an absolute power corrupts, right? So they're looking at who has the upper hand, who has power, who can exact power in which way, who can wield what. And we're also seeing not just the grades slipping and him trying to make this deal with his guidance counselor, but he also has relationship problems with his best friend, which we talked about with Joshua Jackson. It's falling apart. Is also his girlfriend, Kitty. And he,
Becky.
sorry, Becky, excuse me. There's a cat scene that I also wrote about that's right
Oh,
underneath that. Oh, anyway, don't want to talk about that. But
okay,
anywho,
we can skip on past that.
we can skip. Whatever. We'll mention it briefly, but trigger warnings
Yeah.
coming up. But his girlfriend tries to give him a blowjob, and he cannot get it up because he is so thinking about power and stuck in another place. But also, there's a very, very strong homoerotic undertone, of course, in this whole movie of just
Mhm.
like, you know, um, how enamored are you with this soldier life? How enamored are you of these uniforms? What do you mean it looks like penises on the side, of the ranks? Like there's so many things that keep coming up that are very is he the golden boy he thought he was? Is there something
Mhm.
else that is he's fascinated by in this life of all these men together?
So we do get a scene where Dusander does find a stray cat and try to cook it in the oven, which does not work, thank goodness.
Thank fucking God.
Um, Todd's we do is in he and his best friend have a confrontation, and he ends up killing a pigeon with a basketball.
So we got
And
the
so we're
cruelty to animals section. It's
which is
awful.
how it always starts, right? And like we talked
Yeah.
about in American Psycho, Patrick Bateman's first kill is a guide dog, and you're like,
Yep.
okay, it was one thing about the guy, it's another thing about the dog, because then you're like, oh no, no,
You've
and
turned.
it's always, of course, the beginning path to any sort of murder is starting with animals and then working your way up eventually to humans. So now, he works at Jacinda comes and pretends to be Todd's grandfather, says there's problems at home, so don't worry about it, and basically forces him for the next month to be this prisoner in his house studying nonstop until he gets his grades up, which he does. So he
Well,
gets
because
straight
it seems
A's.
like a deal with the devil. Because like, the guidance counselor's like, if you manage to, get A's on all your finals, not B's or C's, fucking A's. You gotta get A's, on all of them, and then I will drop your midterm grades so that they don't count towards your finals so that you can keep and maintain your status, right? Because he
Mhm.
had been a super student. So,
But he's smart
um
enough now to find his secret stash of horny Nazi stuff that he has in his secret box and throw it away. Be like, okay, something he can feel something will happen at some point that people are not going to want to find that
they're
in his
gonna be
room.
searching. Yep.
So
Uh-huh.
he's like, okay, already going to get it away. So now the big bluff that, but once he's able to get all A's, is now Dusander's like, well, now I realize you're probably not going to need me anymore, and you're probably just going to go because now what I've served my purpose. But what if I had written our story down and it's now in a safe deposit box, and when I die, it's all going to come out. So now my death is your death, and I'm going to take you down with me, and now we're locked together forever in this thing. And this is the part where, like, the 12-year-old kid or the 13-year-old kid who first shows up at the store doesn't see this coming, right? He thinks it's this, like, I'm going to see him for a couple weeks, hear these gushy stories, and then it'll be cool, but doesn't realize his entire life is hinging on this decision to go to see this man.
Right. And in the book, doesn't it takes over the course of years, but this is, like,
Yes.
literally
It's
truncated into, like, a month or 2
it
here in
feels
the film.
it
So they
feels
do the
so
timeline is
smushed.
yeah, the timeline is very smushed because I mean, they are trying to get they're ramping it up very quickly,
Yeah. This
and
is a
so
novella, so it's several hundred
right,
pages. So this is, like,
right.
not so they not a short story like The Mangler we talked about. Like, this is a full-on real kind
Right.
of novella.
So this timeline is very different. So he's like, well, it's in the safe deposit box. This is where this is their the power grab here. And so he's like, well, basically we're interlinked, we're intertwined. So no matter what, like this is it. So now it's like they are questioning each other's power. Like, do you have the power or do I have the power? Who's in control
Mhm.
here? Um,
And he said gets down to it and says the ultimate power he wants is to let someone know they are alive only because you decided it.
yep.
I'm like, that's yeah. So
That's
he
what it
says,
comes
"Fuck
down
you," and he
to.
says, "Oh,
Yeah.
my dear boy, we're fucking each other," and you're like, "Yep, now you are. Who's on to who's cat who's mouse now?" So we have Mr. Baseball Hero here. So another thing that they kind of so we get Elias Kotis, who's about to show up as a unhoused fellow who's going to follow Dusander home and have an unfortunate end. But there is a lot of they're each killing vagrants separately,
Yeah, I
like
heard
they're
read
finding
yeah.
people. So like Dusander's like has this thing of inviting guys back to his house and killing them in his basement. There's like a whole thing of bodies, and Todd has
Okay,
been
right.
going
So they
to
truncate this to 1 in this movie versus what's in the
yeah, no,
novella.
it's a lot. Like he's killed a lot
Mhm.
of people, and Todd has also killed a lot of people, and but they're doing it totally separately, and they don't know the other person's doing it. And it isn't until he brings the guy home and has a heart attack like midway through the murder that now Todd's involved in this thing. And now there's
'Cause he
also
gives
like the
call
police are
Ted a
looking for a
call.
killer and they don't
Yeah,
know which one it is and that kind of thing.
got it. So Todd gets a call while, our Doosander Danker is having a heart attack. And so he tells him he needs to come over because, "I'm about to die." He's like, "Oh, shit." He's like and so Todd is Scooty's over there because he wants to make sure he gets the key to that safe deposit box, so that he doesn't actually go down with this ship. And so he gets over there and helps clean it up, and ends up having to help kill the unhoused man. He brings him to an end with a shovel after Dusander had stabbed him with a knife and sent him down a whole flight of stairs into his basement. And so they basically have killed this man together now. So now they're absolutely linked by blood, literally,
Mhm.
by the blood of this man. And so Todd cleans it all up for him and then gets the ambulance to come take Dusander to the hospital.
But they do have them. He says, like, you have to give me the key before I'll do anything. I will not call the ambulance until you give me the key. And he says, there is no keys. There is no safe deposit box. And he doesn't believe him. But that's the point is like, you're never going to know if he's telling the truth or not. Once he's said that to you, he can say it's a lie, but is it?
Yeah.
And so it's that kind of thing of now he goes back, he tries to so the letter they had come up with this premise where there was a letter that Ducenter got that was very important, but they've put this lie with his parents that he can't read very well, so he tells them to come over to do it, but the letter's in German, so he can't understand it. But they have to find a letter that's in German really quick because that's the ploy. And so he runs upstairs, and there's a kind of box that Ducenter has of his personal stuff, breaks it open, and there's a letter in there that's from the 40s that he's kept. So they're able to
Mhm.
take it out of the envelope and just have the letter, so you couldn't know when it was written.
Mhm.
But if you spoke German, you would read it and be like, oh, this is 40 years old. Like, what is this?
Right.
And so it's a kind of a different thing where now this letter becomes the hinging point of how they're able to
This in the
start
book.
seeing Todd as a
Mhm.
suspect. Is like, why is this letter gone? Who would steal a letter? Which they do talk about a bit.
They talk about it a little bit in the film, but not yeah, not to that extent. So, Dusander's in the hospital and, he's might be okay. It looks like he's gonna be okay, but, the man who's sharing the room with him happens to be a Holocaust survivor, and not just any Holocaust survivor. He is one who was in the exact same camp and whose family was murdered by Dusander, in, overseas, and so it's a big to do because when this man realizes it, he's able to keep his mouth, not scream out loud while he's in the room, but recognizes him and gets his little booty out of there, even though he's very clearly ill, and lets the people know so that when Dusander awakens, he's met by the people he's been running from for 40 plus years now. He is met, by the FBI and then also by somebody from Israel who is part of the tribunal who's been rounding up these guys to, you know, do what
And
they
they
got to do.
also they fingerprinted him while he was asleep,
Yep.
so they know they have taken his picture. He knows the whole deal is all the jig is up, as they say.
Yeah.
And so the parents now there's a moment where Todd is graduating and Mr. French comes over and is like, "Hey, where's your grandfather?" And Dad's like, "Oh, we don't see him very much. He's in a wheelchair." And he's like, "What?" So
Hmm.
now French, who is as annoying in the book as he is in the story, in the film, just like David Schwimmer's
So
giving
he,
me
it
nothing
was
in
supposed to
this
be
movie.
Well, it was supposed to be someone else, but they, I guess the director saw him in a play and, like, cast him because they thought he was really good in the play. So that's how he ended up getting the part. That's the story, Morning Glory.
I get nothing from him. Like it's just blank, void.
I thought he was
It's
fine. I think he's
he's
fine. He's
fine, but like
serviceable,
I don't know.
but
This character is like
he's very guidance
dismissible.
counselor.
Yeah.
My guidance counselor as well told me I would not get into UCLA and was not super helpful. Guidance
Mm,
counselors can hit or miss, and I can tell you, I was like, "Yep, he's giving guidance counselor energy." Sorry to all the guidance
mhm.
counselors out there. Blessings to you, but help the kids with their dreams, okay? Please, please. I know you're always trying to look for evidence for sad things, but
Yeah.
help them with their dreams.
Yes, please do not crush dreams. That is a good idea for a guidance counselor. So now Arthur and Todd are both shocked because now that identity is revealed, it is all over the news, and now his parents has to pretend that he didn't know this whole time that
Well,
he
they ask him, they're
was.
like, "Did you know?" And he's like, no, I didn't
Okay.
know. I swear to
Mm-mm.
God, I didn't know." And he's like playing this, trying to play this innocent thing. And it's kind of like, don't push too hard, kid.
Yeah, and there's protests going on outside the hospital. You have the neo-Nazis on one side, and you have the people, saying the kind of so Danker's like, well, at the end of a rope here, guess I'm just gonna blow into my IV tube and kill myself. So he takes pills in the story, same difference. That
Yeah.
he does
Yeah.
commit suicide in
Mhm,
the
in the
hospital.
hospital
But
room.
now the cops are like, well, so how about that letter? What was that? What was they trying to push into? And so we do see in the story that the cops think it's Todd. They're like, Todd's definitely involved. Like he thinks that he's real smooth and like could get past this, but they can see. So
Well, because they
that
found
he's
because he's the one who called, they found the dead body down in the basement, they're finding so many things, and also because Sanders, like, I mean, it just seems a little sus. It seems very
yeah. So
suspect.
and now that Mr. French sees Mr. Denker's picture in the paper as a Nazi war criminal, wants to talk to Todd's parents, because this is the gentleman who was your grandfather, was it not? So the end of this movie is Todd says he's going to tell everybody that Ed touched him inappropriately if he says anything, and he says he can't do that. He says, "No, you have no idea what we can do. Walk away." The end. What the fuck is that ending? Because the real ending of this story is that he kills Ed French. He shoots Ed French, then goes to a
Well,
high school that
mhm,
goes to a highway overpass with a rifle, and for hours and hours and hours shoots people from that, and gets taken out by police.
they
That's how it ends.
wanted to exact a similar type of violence like the magnitude of the violence against a person without having to do that much violence in the film, which I
But Stephen King doesn't
support.
work without violence. It's inherent in what he does,
That
and I
is
think the
violence
things
to ruin a man like that and say that you're gonna say just say you did all of that, but also I find it very interesting that that was the go-to for this director right after doing The Usual Suspects with that actor,
sure,
considering those are the things that they were most afraid of, and that's kind of what took both of them down. I
yeah,
find it very fascinating that they told on themselves in this fucking movie with that ending, is what I
yeah.
think, because that
So
was what
yeah,
they were most afraid of.
yeah,
So, I find
no, you're
honestly, I was like, "Oh, directors revealing themselves and writers sometimes revealing themselves in how they handle material." So, I find that exceedingly fascinating with this story.
well. I think people have changed his endings in a myriad of different ways, and sometimes they
Yeah,
work and sometimes they don't. And this one,
yeah.
I said out loud, "What?" when the credits started to roll. I was like, "What? Why would you end it there?" Like, because,
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying, and it does give this kind of open-ended, you don't know what Todd's gonna develop into, but what a lot of the Stephen King books that I love are the really hard 70s ones that like Richard
mhm,
Bachman type stuff
yeah.
of a man, like, losing their mind and eventually becoming this violent, like, thing to society,
He
but
already is, so he
the
already murdered a
hardness.
man and he'll kill again. You
No,
get that he's gonna
and he
kill
will,
again.
but but the
Yeah,
I prefer the hardness to the inference of hardness because I feel like this as hard as this movie goes, it doesn't go hard enough because I cannot express to you how terrifying the story is and reading
mhm,
about how Todd's feeling and Sanders feeling and what's happening in their heads during this is terrifying. So it doesn't give me that, but I feel like they did the best with what they had, what they could
right,
show,
right.
you know?
So, yeah, so, I mean, he that it's a pretty bold threat, but also you have no idea what I can do is the line, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I could literally throw you over a bridge, I could do this, he's that's the inference, I guess, is all the things that
And
you just talked about and saving
sure,
money, not having to shoot all that because they were already spent a lot of money on this movie, and it did not make
sure,
that much back. So to shoot
sure.
all of that would have been
But
another,
I think it would have also it's also that Patrick Bateman feeling of and he'll get away with it because he's this
yes,
beautiful straight A
correct.
student, baseball hero. Like there's no way he could do any of these things. And like that's what he's hinging his whole thing on.
Oh,
But
yeah,
for to have him it's one thing to have him live and continue to do violence. Is another thing in the end of the story to just be like he's going to take out a lot of people and he's going to take himself out because he realizes he has no future. So I think it
right,
just changes the feeling of the story.
right. Ugh, brutal.
So it's not a fun film, but it is
No.
a powerful film. And I appreciate all of the performances in the film very much. And I think that, as I mentioned, one of the scariest stories just because how real it is and how I understand why this movie and this story make people uncomfortable because it should make you very comfortable. And
That's
as I said, gave me nightmares. So, there we are. But gore factor, let's get into it. One,
yeah.
not enough blood to fill a Dixie cup. Two, a puddle of blood. Three, enough blood to gross out the average viewer. Four, bathtub of blood. And five is run for the barf bag. This is a 3.5. The Elias Codius death is pretty brutal,
Yeah, the
but
unhoused
it's not.
man's yeah.
Yeah. And his performance is so sweet and charming and delightful and
I
is so
love
much better than it
him.
needs to be. And I'm so glad he's in this movie and I want more from him always.
He's the sad part is, like, he kinda was the highlight for me too because he's the one who's you have the most empathy for,
Yeah.
um, and,
Where he
but
generally
also
seems kind and,
yeah,
lost and yeah.
just needs a little bit of help, but also chose the wrong kind of help, but also maybe he's a little bit on the I don't know, anyway, it's bad. Um Ratings: 1 if you're desperate, 2 barely qualifies as a horror film, 3 seen worse, seen better, 4 not too shabby, 5 fantasticorical. This is a 3 for me. It's definitely a horror film. Yes, I've seen worse and yes, I've seen better. Um, is it satisfying in any way? Not really. It's really, really hard to watch. And then just kind of with the history, and I know Julia had said I could watch something else. I was like, the baggage of this era, but I also am glad I
Mhm.
watched it. Um, 'Cause I don't remember watching it back in the day. If I did, I blocked it out. Do you know what I mean, though? Like, I
Yeah.
honestly
Well,
might have. Like, it's one of those ones I feel like I probably was like, "Oh, let's go see the new whatever."
cue Brad
And
Renfro, and then you get
yeah,
there
like, that
and
would have been,
it's
like, a thing, and, like,
yeah.
I just was like, "Oh, it's brutal."
Yeah, and I gave it a 3 as well, and that's mainly just because, like, there are things I like about it, the performances, I can't fault them, but I also don't get what I want from it. Like, it's not
Yeah.
giving me, as hard as it is, what I need from this story, and so I feel like when I look back at the other alternate universe casting, like, you have Ricky Schroeder, and I'm like, I don't think Ricky Schroeder could play this. I really, really
No.
don't, and I like Ricky Schroeder as a person, as an actor. I don't know what about as a person. As an actor, I don't know what his deal is, but
Yeah.
as a kid, I was into Mud Silver Spoons and stuff, and I was
Of
like,
course.
he is good, but he's
But
like
even as
80s
an adult,
sitcom
he was
good.
good too. No, but he was I think he was good in, like, the harder stuff he did, because he did some, like, TV movie stuff and all that kind of stuff in that era as well too that I thought was, like, more dramatic. I think he's
Mhm.
good at that. I think he could have he has that range.
But
I don't know if it's that specific, that
'cause you
psychopath thing that you
yeah.
need. You need a little bit more of that blank. I think he's a little too, too much empathy in his face, if that
Yeah,
makes
I
sense.
think you
Like,
need the hollowness behind the
yeah.
eyes, which I think Brad
Yeah.
Renfro does well, and I
Yeah.
think that's a quality that you need, but he's not quite scary enough. Like, I
And
really
they
want him to
yeah.
be terrifying, and he doesn't
Yeah.
really scare me.
Yeah. No.
Um, okay,
But also
so
Anthony Hopkins would have been great too, I feel like,
would have
and
been
I
great. I mean,
mean, in this
James
era,
Mason would have
Anthony
watched.
Hopkins,
Richard
woo,
Burton would have watched. Like, there's so
woo.
many, that
Yeah,
I would love,
yeah.
and I can see why you would not wanna play this role, but I applaud Sir Ian McKellen's
And I'm just glad he got to do
bravery.
Gandalf after this. Thank
Yeah,
fucking God. Oh
yeah.
God.
He's done many things. He's done many things. He played many characters. Thank you for listening to talk about Apt Pupil. All hail the king. We are doing a month for his birthday, and we want to know what you think about Apt Pupil as a story or as a movie. You can talk to us on all of the things. We always reply. We're on Patreon if you'd like to support us. We have Teespring. I have 2 other podcasts. One about Stephen King called The Losers Club, where you can listen and talk
Yeah.
about more about him, and also JodoWOWsky, all about Alejandro Jodorowsky and his films. I also made a Dollar Baby Stephen King short. If you'd like to see it, it's on Arrow's Player, called I Know What You Need, shot on location at the University of Maine. Thank you very much. You can also email me if you want to see it. But we also
Oh
do
my God.
another show.
We do another show here on the YouTube. If you're not already following, subscribing on YouTube, please do. But you can also see us on Horror X on the George A. Romero Foundation, aka the Garf Network on YouTube as well. So a little funness. We do the last Thursday of every month. We do a live stream show where we talk to different women and femmes in horror every month about their careers, about horror movies. We get into the nitty gritty. We have delightful time there with all of our interviews. We have a whole back catalog of that, so check that out. There should be a playlist linked here. Or head out over to our YouTube to find that. And again, follow, subscribe, I'll say it again. And tell a friend. And tell a friend. Yes. Yes, Julia?
Yes.
Anything else?
Please.
For this time? Merch, Teespring. We talked about Patreon. We talked about all those things. Long days, pleasant nights. Don't be a Nazi. I guess.
Yeah, that's kind
of what I got.
May
that's how you survive this one.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you survive? Don't be a creep. That's how you survive.
Don't be bad. Don't be evil. And don't murder. Okay, thanks so much. All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Horror Movie Survival Guide is independently produced by Terry Gamble, Julia Marchesi, and Sierra Ryan. Hey, that's me. If you would like to support the show, find us on patreon.com/horror movie survival guide.